Have you ever wondered what the effect of a nuke blast would be on your home and where you're living, and whether or not you could survive it? Well, I happen to be a prepper with a PhD in physics who has been trained in high-energy particle physics. Are you interested? Well, there's a great online script you can run called NukeMap that you can find at a place called nuclearsecrecy.com. I'm not affiliated with that website in any way. And it has a great set of automated calculations, but it's actually quite technical, and unless you kind of know what you're doing, you won't get a realistic result. Fortunately, I can translate for you a PhD in physics and high-energy particle training, so I can tell you what it all means. I'm thinking of making a little short series on nuke blasts, fallout, radiation effects, overpressure, etc. And this will be the first of these videos. But some of it is kind of self-evident, and you don't need a fancy background to understand. So first, Russia has about as many nukes as there are airports in the US. This means, as a first guess, you can assume any airport, no matter how large or small, will be targeted by a nuke. That means that little crop duster airport next to your farm, if you're a farmer somewhere, well, yeah, that one too. Now, using something called the Pareto rule, nobody really knows what the nuke distribution is in the Russian arsenal, but you can make a good guess that 80% of the firepower is in 20% of the nukes. And since the Pareto rule applies to almost all complicated distributions of things, it also means that 80% of US airport capacity is in 20% of the airports. So that means you can then make the next guess. That is, the bigger the airport, the bigger the nuke it'll draw. But there are practical limits to how small you would want to bother putting on a sub-launched missile or a ICBM MIRV. So, sub-launched, probably 100 to 500 kilotons. ICBM MIRVs, probably a megaton. That means all small airports, probably 100 kilotons. Large airports, probably 1 megaton to 3 megatons. Also, the purpose is to wreck the ground, not to flatten buildings. So it's going to be a ground burst, not an air burst, probably. Obviously, any military bases or power plants will also be targets, probably dams, bridges too. Probably guess a megaton for bases, 100 kiloton for bridges. So in my area, SJC happens to be the local large airport of the area. So my guess is that it'll be a couple megatons hitting SJC. Sure, there'll be other close ones too, like SFO, probably draw similar power, and maybe even Kilroy, a small one down there. But nevertheless, I'm just going to look at the closest one for now. You also have to understand the effect of wind speed and wind direction, because that kind of defines everything actually. The primary destructive power of a ground burst is not the fireball, it's the fallout. And that is dependent on the direction of the low altitude winds as well as the high altitude winds, but more importantly, the low altitude winds. So if you're one of the bug out type, know that you should have a bug out location far to the north and possibly even far to the south, and you pick based on wind direction at the time. And what matters is not so much the big cloud, the big mushroom cloud, but more specifically, the stem of the mushroom cloud. Either the very center of the main cloud and where it falls, or the stem will have a high enough radiation level that even if you stay in an Atlas shelter for 2 weeks or so and you come out, there'll still be enough fallout that's active up on top, that it's kind of not safe to go up. Now, this is a pretty long topic, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this video soon. You can play around with this website and try out different scenarios based on what you think the local targets would be. But I will continue with this series and discuss this more if viewers seem it's interesting and if it gets views. Other factors I can go to are the effects of radiation, the neutrons versus gamma, what fallout is like, what kinds of shelters work and why, things like that. So leave your comments and tell me what you think I should get into next.